So we're at the reception and I'm super excited because we've been getting amazing shots all day long, but we have to keep these shots at a very high level. So what are the two things that we're gonna focus on at the reception? We're gonna focus on lighting, because they're gonna give us bad lighting, and we're also gonna focus on audio. Now, dealing with audio is not gonna be the easiest thing you have to do, because you're gonna have to deal with an outside person. Generally, you're gonna have to deal with a DJ. Sometimes you're gonna have to deal with a sound engineer if they have a big band playing that night. But it's gonna be all about negotiation, okay? And one thing I want you to understand is, these sound people that are at these events, they've got an obligation to sound good to the guests. So they're very wary about videographers, especially coming along and wanting to interfere with their setups and things like that. So you gotta kind of give them peace of mind that you're not there to interfere with their work or make them sound bad. You just wanna work as a team. You wanna be able to record great audio, and they also wanna be able to play great audio for the guests. So what I've done for this course is, I've done the rare thing of bringing in an actual high-end DJ to kind of explain why there may or may not be pushback at certain events with certain wedding filmmakers. So we talked about audio and we talked about the splitter setup. Now, the only thing is we have to get that splitter setup past the DJ. Topher, I want to ask you a few questions. First question is, what are your thoughts on videographers coming to your board, either looking for a feed or looking to connect to your board?
You know, to be perfectly honest, when I started, I felt kind of threatened by it, and I partly just didn't know any better, and I quickly realized I want to be friends with you guys and hopefully get some of the footage for my own marketing. But to be honest with you, what I appreciate the most is knowing ahead of time, but then also if a videographer brings a couple of different adapters. So even if I have an open channel, you know, if they need RCA, you know, or balanced 1/4 inch or an XLR or whatever, I have some adapters with me, but I really appreciate that they've thought, hey, I'm ready to take whatever he's sending me, you know, as we collaborate. And you can get good quality cables, not extremely expensive.
Right.
I mean, you can, it's affordable to get the good cables. Yeah. And when I say 1/4 inch, I'm not talking about an instrument out, I mean a balanced cable that's gonna give you the same signal actually as an XLR. I think some folks don't realize, you know, if you did an adapter for like a headphone jack, that might be unbalanced, but the kind of 1/4 inch that I'm sending out is balanced just like an XLR would be.
A few years ago, I was introduced to the splitter. And basically, as you know, what the splitter is gonna do is gonna keep us independent of each other. So that way, no matter what you do on your board, no matter what I do on my field recorder, we're kept totally apart. Nothing that I'm doing is gonna affect you, nothing that you're doing is gonna affect my audio. So I love this whole splitter concept. The problem is that a lot of the DJs out there, they don't even understand what the splitter is doing. So what are some of the easy ways that videographers out there can approach these sound people and kind of put them at ease?
So I originally actually found this out from a different videographer, and I think it originated from you.
Probably.
So the trickle down has been going on as you've been doing this,
Right.
and this concept reached me at a wedding, and I was like, when I saw the box, I was like, this guy knows what he's doing.
Right.
And I completely trusted it. But as far as explaining maybe to a DJ who doesn't understand, I would say, I would maybe show them the box and say, before your mic connects to your mixer, I want to send it where I can have, you know, a channel split off.
Right.
So I'm taking it before it hits your mixer.
So for the speeches, which is the most important thing that we're trying to capture, say at a reception, now I've got a direct feed going right to my field recorder, and I've got a backup feed from the board. But if something goes flaky with your feed, I can always go back to my direct feed, or vice versa. Even if you do the splitter setup and everything is sounding great, the DJ can still mess you up. Because what's gonna happen is, and I see this happen all the time, you're gonna have a speech and say like the father of the bride, he's up there, and now he's gonna start dropping that mic. What the DJ's doing, he's raising the gain. And by raising the gain, he's raising all the
ambient noise,
ambient noise. So you're gonna start hearing the forks and the spoons clanking louder, any little noises that are happening in the corner of the rooms. Now you're gonna actually get all that through the mic.
A little bit of it, it's not
and
a
your
shotgun
direct
mic.
recording, right? And your direct recording. The other problem is you're gonna start to get like that tinny sound.
Right.
You're gonna start to get that tinny sound, and you may start to get some feedback. And that stuff you are gonna record. So I am literally constantly going back to the DJ, and I'm begging him. I'm like, look, don't help them so much with the gain. Force them to kind of talk into the mic, because I feel as though if they start to get distant from their mouth and nobody's listening to them, nobody's hearing them, they're gonna be forced to naturally put that mic back at their mouth. But if you're helping them too much and they can be out here and the guests are still hearing them, you tell me. This is a real conversation.
I'm glad we're having this conversation, because what I wanted to say is, when you guys are positioning them, like if there's a mic stand, or you say, hey, stand here for the speeches, you know, which is very common with the videographers we work with, is they'll, you know, when we work with you, and if you're another voice who says, hold it close to your face, keep it within an inch of your lips, you know, touch your chin, whatever, and it's not just the DJ. I've told a guy, hold it close to your mouth, and he looked at me and he's like, you know, eye roll, thinking I was being silly to set him up for failure. And I'm like, no, really.
Hold it up to your mic.
That will help avoid feedback.
And I always tell them, speak directly into the mic, but what happens is, if they start
getting nervous,
or if they talk with their hands, you know, a lot of these weddings, they like to talk with the hands. So if they start doing that, but the audio is still good because you're raising the gain, I always try to go back there and I said, listen, just don't help them too much with the gain. I mean, I still realize, like, you have a responsibility to allow the guests to be able to hear them, but at the same time, that could mess you up. Even though you have this splitter set up in place, that type of feedback, that type of raising of the gain and raising the ambient noise in the room, that is gonna affect the audio. So
especially if the DJ left it at that level, the next person grabs it, can use a mic, holds it up,
right,
boom,
and then you know,
and then I duck it down, but your left, where part of your recording is so hot that even in post, you know, that it's like
gonna be
peeking
hard.
out.
What about contacting you before the event?
That's immensely helpful, and what you might want to make sure of is that you're talking to the person who's going to be there. So if you were dealing with a larger company, maybe they have several DJs, or maybe it's an audio production company, but you don't know which sound guy they're sending. You just want to make sure that the message gets to who is going to be there. And then I would say the most important conversation happens on site when you approach them during setup.
So it's all about, for me, giving you peace of mind and hopefully getting you to agree to this whole splitter concept, and also getting a good quality feed from the board. Would you say it would better my chances if I'm showing up with professional gear?
Absolutely, 100%, yeah.
And if I'm not showing up with professional gear, what am I getting?
At most, I'm gonna wanna say, here's your feed, and in my head, I'm thinking this guy isn't pro and should have prepared. Like, why is it my responsibility at the end of the day?
He's just not doing things right, he wasn't prepared.
I do wanna help, but...
And you're gonna try to give them the best signal that you can.
Sure, of course.
But at the end of the day, he's not really gonna be able to introduce all this crummy gear to your board.
Well, because I'm worried about my responsibility to the client, which is to produce great live audio. And I don't want to introduce something into the chain that's not up to par. So the gear definitely makes a difference, It
sounds fair. All right, so I want to thank Topher for coming in. Topher is literally at the top of the food chain as it relates to DJing. You've been gracious enough to come in here and let me pick your brain about your relationships with wedding filmmakers.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you on an event soon.
Hey, I'm looking forward to working with you soon.
Thanks, Ray.
Awesome. Okay, so we're at the reception. This looks amazing. There's a couple challenges here though. The room looks great, these chandeliers look amazing, but there's daylight coming from the outside. And the problem with that is that light's blue and this light's yellow. So you're gonna have kind of like a mixed light situation. What I'll generally do is, if I can, I'll look around the room, see if anybody's around, and I'll see if I can find a light switch, if it's not gonna affect anything right now. I still have about 20 minutes till the bridal party comes in. If not, I can always try to find a banquet manager or the wedding planner and just say, look, these lights are giving me some problems for the room shot. Can you just dim them down just for these overall room shots? Now, when I talk about the room shot, you gotta kind of scan the room, because obviously if there was some junk over there or some signs that kind of detract from the quality of the film, I don't want to be shooting that. So maybe it's better to kind of shoot back this way. Now, I've already looked at this room and I have found that this side looks really, really good. The cake's over there, so it looks amazing. And I've got these beautiful centerpiece. I do have the chandeliers. They're not throwing that much of that yellow light, so I'll probably just keep them on because I feel like it's gonna add to the shot. So the first thing I wanna do, if I can clear the room, that's gonna be another big thing, is trying to clear the room of all the wait staff and the people filling glasses and the ladders and people setting up the band stage and all that. So once I have the room cleared, I'm gonna go over here to my gimbal. I've got a wide lens on here, about a 16 to 35, because I want to be able to see the whole room for this wide shot, okay? Once I'm done with the wide shot, I'm gonna come in for like a medium shot and then a tight shot, because I want to get all the detail on this table. One of the challenges of this wide shot is going to be the fact that inside here is a little bit underexposed, and the outside has this bright light. So what's going to happen is I'm going to have to kind of expose for the outside light, which means this floral decor is probably going to be a little bit underexposed. I don't think it's going to be a huge deal on the wide shot. So let's see how it looks. Okay, so obviously make sure you're recording. And now I kind of want to focus on these chandeliers. They look pretty cool. So I'm gonna get a shot just kind of scanning across the chandeliers, and then I'm gonna do a tilt down and try to reveal this centerpiece. And when I do the tilt down, I'm actually gonna tuck myself behind the chairs so I'm not seeing as much of that daylight shooting through the doors. And that's looking pretty good. I'm gonna shoot it a couple different ways. Now the good thing here is I've got about 15, 20 minutes till the reception starts. These shots don't last that long. They're only about 7 seconds long. So maybe I get like 2 or 3 wides, and then I'm gonna start going in tight, and I'm gonna be using a slider for that. And I'm gonna show you how I do that. Let's get one more shot just to add some variety. And maybe I'll just do a tilt up, and then I'll kind of tilt down onto this table, kind of revealing this beautiful setup that they have here. Okay, so I've got the slider set up, I've got my camera on here, I've got an amazing shot. Now this slider is really cool because it's actually gonna do most of the work for me. All I have to do is set an in point and an out point, and it actually does an arc if I wanted to. So this is gonna be really, really nice. Now with the cake there, the cake looks great, but being inside the doors, it was a little bit underexposed, so I actually had Anthony use an LED light to fill some light in on the cake. Now it looks fantastic. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna come in here and I'm going to create a move. And now it's basically gonna calibrate for the move. And I'm actually gonna get a little preview here of what the shot's gonna look like. So basically what's gonna happen here is I'm sliding through this whole floral decor and I'm gonna reveal the cake. It's gonna be a really nice shot. So I've set my in point, and now I've just gotta set my out point. And I wanna make sure for the out point, I'm actually revealing this cake. There we go. That looks pretty good. And I'm gonna make sure this is locked down so it's not turning while it's sliding across. Okay, so I set the out, and now this actually allows you to set the duration, and I want it to be nice and slow. So I'm gonna give myself about 17 seconds. And I can actually loop the movement. So it'll go to the left and then it'll go to the right, which is kind of cool. So in post, if I want to use the one going to the left, I use the one going to the left. If I want to use the one going to the right, I use the one going to the right. Okay, so I'm going to loop it, and all I got to do is press start, and it's going to assume the starting position. And now we're good to go. Now I just got to hit record and click go. And now it's gonna take 17 seconds to get from one end to the other end. And I can actually see the cake through the floral, which is really cool. And once it gets to the end, it's actually gonna reveal that beautiful cake. And bam, I'm done, okay? Now, very quickly, we don't have a lot of time, so I'm gonna move on to my next shot. Anthony, I need the 35 lens on here, so just go grab me the 35 lens. And meanwhile, I'm gonna move this slider, get it in position. You gotta be quick, guys. The guests are gonna come in, and these shots are not gonna be as great with the guests in the room. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come down here, and I'm gonna be honest with you, when I'm crunched for time, These are kind of like the cover my base shots that I do at every reception. I get the wide shot and then I come in tight for the slider shots. You wanna make sure you get these details, not as much so as say like the photographer where they're photographing every last detail, but these clients wanna see their stuff. They're gonna wanna see some details in the film. So do not neglect going in tight and actually showing these really expensive menu cards from, like, in this case, CC New York. You do wanna make sure it's nice and level. And here we go. So let's see what looks good here. I'll go back, and you can actually just create a new arc move. So now it's gonna go over to here. And if you notice, I'm using the remote control to actually pan the camera right and left. Okay, so I'm gonna pick my starting position, and I'll probably just tilt the camera down a little bit. Now what's cool about these cameras obviously is I've got face detection autofocus, and I can actually set that focus point on the menu card. So it's constantly gonna be tracking that menu card as it's rotating. All right, so let's see how that looks. I'm gonna adjust my exposure a little bit. It's a little bit brighter here, closer to the door. I'm gonna set the in point, and now I just have to set an out point. Okay. And that looks pretty good. And now we're ready to go. And now I'm gonna click start, and it's gonna move to the beginning of the movement. And there it starts. And this shot's pretty cool because it's actually shooting down the entire table. So this is essentially like my medium shot. As soon as the shot's over, I'm gonna switch to the tight shot of these menu cards. It's gonna look really cool. And that's it, 17 seconds, we're done, and we wanna move. Don't waste too much time here because next thing you know, the guests are gonna be coming through the door and they're gonna be coming to the table and you're gonna miss all these shots. So just be quick about it. You don't have to rush things and be sloppy, but time is not on your side. Okay, so I'm gonna focus in on this menu card. My exposure looks great. And this is already set, I just have to create a new move. Very simple. I'm gonna pan the camera in for my start point. And then I'm gonna set the out. And then for the out, I'm just gonna pan it back in. So it's always on the menu card, but it gives me a nice, slow, smooth, epic shot of this menu card. I set it, and I click start, and I'm ready to go. So right now it's moving to the starting position. I'm gonna hit record, and now it's gonna take this shot. And I've actually got a 35 lens on here. If it was a wider lens, maybe I'm not seeing all the detail in the menu card. So I want a nice 35 lens, pretty shallow, and I want to get all the detail from that menu card. And that's it, the shot's done. So now what we're gonna do is one last shot. Even though I shot the cake from afar, I want to get up close. I want to get the detail in that cake. So that's gonna be our last shot. Anthony, can you get me the 11 to 24 lens? If you notice here, Anthony's throwing me some light. The tripod right now is a little bit high, so what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna get this tripod down a little bit lower, because I actually wanna shoot up on this cake here. They actually have a couple lamps here. Maybe I can get that in the shot, and it's gonna add some interest to my background. Let's see. So Anthony, we have an 11-24 lens. And Anthony, what I need for you to light this cake. Just give me some fill light. And I'm using an LED light for this. This LED light is so helpful in filling in light where you need it. Okay, so we're all set up. We're looking pretty good. And for this, I'm gonna really get in here tight to the cake. We've got 11-24 lens on here. And I'm gonna see what this looks like. Nice and wide. Oh, this looks great. Okay, but I don't want those doors. So what I'm gonna do is, Anthony, push this light out. I don't want so much of the doors because I do have bright daylight coming through those doors. So I don't want to get any of that in my shot. So let's see how we're looking. I'm going to lock down the tripod. I'm going to set my exposure. And that looks pretty good. Yep, so Anthony's basically closing off that door. So he's basically blocking that natural daylight from coming in. I just want to focus in on this cake here. Okay, so I'm going to reset this. I'm going to create a new arc move. And let's see how this looks. Okay, so I'm going to set my end. Make sure I'm focusing. And now I'm going to autofocus on that cake. Set my end. Now it's going to set the out. I set my out point, and this looks pretty cool. I might just tilt up a little bit so I can see those lamps more. Or maybe not. And that's great. And that's it. It's getting into the starting position. I'm going to get my final shot of this cake. And I think we pretty much covered all our bases for this particular room. Let's see how this looks. Hit record. And this is going to take about 17 seconds to get to one end. And it's just going to give me a really smooth shot. And I'm not doing any work. I'm literally just programming everything into this remote. And that's my shot. Everything was tight focus. Now we got about 2 minutes to the grand entrance. Are you ready? Let's do it. So for the entrances, I'm gonna have my assistant, like we talked about, right next to me with a light, getting ready for the couple to come in. So if there's any dark spots and things like that, he'll be able to light them as they're making their way into the room and they're getting out onto the dance floor. He's gonna try to maintain that same distance from the couple. So this other light that I've placed next to the speaker, that's gonna actually illuminate the dance floor. And now we've basically got great lighting all the way from the time they enter the room up until the time they get onto the dance floor. And a lot of times they're going right into the first dance. So you really have to be prepared. Okay, so bride and groom are getting ready to come in. This is gonna be a fantastic shot. Now, I'm definitely not gonna shoot backlit. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hug the wall. So I'm not getting none of that backlight. I have beautiful light on the guests. They're being lit by the daylight that's coming through the door. And now I'm gonna wait for the bride and groom. Make sure you're recording. And now I've got a great shot. This is amazing. They're going to greet the guests. They come in, we're tracking it. And now we're ready for the first dance. So I've got the wide shot on the gimbal, creative. Jessica's got the solid shot on the tripod, 70-200. She's got the nice, tight, intimate emotions going on. Now Anthony over here, he doesn't have to light for me because I've got all this beautiful daylight coming in. So what I asked Anthony to do is just find a spot around the ballroom and look for like a creative shot, not just a basic boring shot. I want something creative. So now I'm gonna get into this shot. I'm gonna make sure I'm recording, very important. This couple is definitely in love. I'm gonna start with a tilt up, and then I'm gonna tilt down, revealing the room, the couple, all the emotions, the love. All the while, Jessica's got this shot, Anthony's got a beautiful shot, and we can cut back and forth in post. And I don't really have to do too much. In fact, sometimes I can just hold a wide shot. Like if this room just looks gorgeous the way that it does, I can just hold a nice wide shot. Maybe ever so often, I can do a little push in, nice and smooth. Here, I can tilt up to the chandeliers and just do a little rotation down and revealing the couple again. And I'm pretty much good with that. You don't have to do too much. Just hold the wide shot in case later on they ask you for the full first dance or anything like that in the edit. Now I have my angle and I've got Jessica's angle, but we are gonna record all the formalities. So this looked amazing. And we've got a stunning entrance and an amazing first dance. Now let's get ready for the speeches. Okay, so we're ready for speeches. I've got the mic right here. I've got the mic stand. I actually own both. Now this is a great thing because I know my mic's only gonna be used for the speeches. And whenever speeches do start, I can actually take this mic stand and put it anywhere I want. I've set up my light. I know that this is gonna be the best position for the person giving the speech. And I've also looked at the background. This is an amazing background, which is what I want. So the speaker's gonna come up, which is the father of the bride, and I'm gonna give him some instructions. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna adjust the mic. So if he's really, really tall, obviously I'm gonna make the adjustment. If he's not, I'm gonna bring it down, and I'm gonna give him some instructions. Sir, when you come up to give your speech, just speak directly into the microphone, okay? Now, I've got one other issue here. If you look at this head table, generally the bride and groom are in the center of this table, and they're kind of faced in. This is not gonna give me a clear shot for the reaction shot of the bride and the groom. So generally what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to my bride and groom while they're up walking around greeting their guests, and I'm gonna say, hey guys, congratulations, everything's coming out great. I have one request for the speeches. Would you mind if I took your chairs from over there and placed them here so you have a direct view of the speeches? You don't mind? Because I don't want you twisting your neck, it's not gonna look good, things like that. You're cool? Yeah. Awesome. So they've given me the green light. They're still walking around, they're greeting guests. I'm gonna come back over and I'm actually gonna take these chairs, and this is just gonna be for the speeches. And I'm gonna place them here. Because this shot here, center of the table facing in, it's gonna be really challenging to try to get good reaction shots from the bride and the groom. So now the speeches are about to start. I've got these chairs set up, and now the bride and groom are gonna come in. And this looks amazing now. They don't have to twist their neck. There's nothing unflattering going on. And now they're looking directly at the father of the bride while he's giving his speech. Now, the other issue here is he's a little bit underexposed. And like I said, this whole situation here with the mixed light, it does get a little bit challenging. So what I did was I set up a key light. I balanced it to daylight, 5600. And now we're gonna turn that on. Anthony? Anthony's actually gonna use a cell phone app to dim up these lights. And now the image looks great. One other issue. The bride and groom, they're actually sitting backlit. So I had to set up another light on the bride and groom. And as you can see, now they look amazing. Okay, so they're gonna start the speech. The lighting looks great. I'm gonna check with Jessica. Jessica's on a long lens, 70-200, nice, tight, intimate shot. And I'm gonna have this medium shot. It's gonna be a fantastic reaction of the bride and the groom, very well lit because I've positioned the lighting here. I'm gonna check the shot, frame it up, make sure it's in focus. I'm gonna check my exposure, and definitely make sure you're recording. And that's pretty much it. I'm gonna look over at Jessica. I'm gonna ask her for a thumbs up. She's gonna give me a thumbs up. Her shot looks great, I trust her. I'm gonna look back at my camera. If I have to make any adjustments, remember the silent communication. If I look over, Jessica's got her hands to her side, that means that I can kind of adjust my tripod and reframe this shot. Okay, so everything looks great. I'm recording, Jessica's recording, we framed up our shots. The audio's recording, which is most important. We have the same setup that we did at the ceremony where we introduced the splitter. Now we're ready for cake cutting. Okay, so we're getting ready for the cake cutting. We've got the lights set up, we've got the bride and the groom, and we're all ready for the cake. Now I've got Jessica in position here, long lens again, 70-200. She's always gonna be shooting nice, tight, intimate shots for all the formalities. I'm always gonna be shooting medium wide, so we vary up our shots a little bit. Okay, so this looks great. I've got a medium shot. They're now getting ready to cut the cake. I'll hold this shot. Jessica's got the tight shot. And we're all set with the cake cutting. Now we're gonna move on to dancing. All right, so they're doing dancing now. This stuff is gonna last like 4 or 5 hours, but maybe the bride and groom, they're not gonna dance like 4 or 5 hours. I see them out here right now. I wanna be able to get some of these nice creative shots with the gimbal. So I'm gonna tilt up, tilt down. This is kind of my favorite shot. And they have some great energy going on. Now Jessica's over here, she's got the 70 to 200. Again, she's got the nice, tight, intimate shots so I can see those nice emotions in their face. And I'm gonna be more creative with the gimbal. So I'm gonna keep these shots going. I'm gonna take advantage of the bride and groom being on the dance floor. And even when they're not on the dance floor, I'm still shooting this stuff. I wanna get all the guests in. You gotta remember, when they watch their film, they wanna see the friends, they wanna see the family. This is your opportunity to get some FaceTime for those friends and family for the film. Now, Anthony, if this was a low lit reception, and I needed some light, he's right here with this really cool LED light that allows him to adjust the color temperature, and it's dimmable. So this works really, really great. It's got some great throw on it. So he's kind of like on standby, just in case I need some fill. So we'll get a little bit more dancing. I'm loving what I'm seeing. This is some great imagery for your film. Just don't get lazy. Get as much as you can. Before you leave at the end of the night, you gotta make sure you have enough content. You have to make sure you have enough of the family and friends, or they might complain. So let's keep this going. I normally just keep this going, and you can even loop around the room. The only problem with this room is you wanna make sure your backgrounds are not blown out. That's why I'm kind of keeping to this direction here, because this is the most beautiful direction to film right now. So I'll kind of keep with this until maybe the sun sets. And then I'll have like a 360 shot of all this dancing going on. And that's how we film a wedding at Ray Roman Films. Now we're gonna go back to the studio and talk about post, delivery, and the business side of wedding filmmaking.